Tonight on Podcast Them Down, Kamelot released the same album again.
Podcast them down.
Hail Metal Nation, it is I, Tim. You're listening to Podcast Them Down, and joining you and me, you being the listener, and me being he who is talking, is Doug and Mike. And we are going to talk about Kamelot's new album, The Awakening. And we are continuing our metal review series. And we already reviewed Ripper's EP, and I gotta pull up my what's the point of rating something if you don't keep track of the numbers, you know? And I'm not sure that Mike is familiar with our very accurate rating system. You know, you can go listen to, go search for the Podcast Them Down episode, the Metal Review Codex, which lays it out in further detail. But I'll leave it to Doug to explain it briefly, if you like.
Yeah. Well, we're operating under the premise that a record is a discrete thing and not just a container for songs, especially in the context of heavy metal, which is always typically album oriented. So we score not only, it's not one score, but three scores, beginning, middle, and end, so far as the music goes. Then we have a separate presentation score.
Oh, interesting.
Encompassing album art and videos and ancillary media. And then the metal factor, which is not a catch-all at all.
Yeah, so there you go. So as we go through this, we have to decide where Act 1, Act 2, and Act 3 start and begin.
Okay.
Start and end.
And the most contentious thing, which I think we open with, Tim, we gotta define the genre or subgenre concisely.
Oh, Christ.
Correct. So I have pre-typed in progressive power metal because that is what Metal Archives claims Kamelot is. Should we discuss this?
Yes.
Okay.
Go ahead, Mike.
Whoever has the strongest feeling, begin.
I mean, it is very hard to not... it's very hard to ignore the symphonic aspects of this over the progressive aspects. I mean, and I wouldn't consider this particularly progressive. It's got its moments, but I would vote more for like symphonic power metal.
What would make this progressive? Like, if you could point to something, or comparing it to another let's say I think progressive power metal, I'd think of like Symphony X. What can I point at in Kamelot that I can also point at Symphony X?
I was thinking about this way too much last night. And if you were to name sort of attributes of progressive music, you would find them in this record and in late stage Kamelot in general. But it's not, this is my description is gothic tinged symphonic metal.
Oh, so you dropped the power too.
I don't think this is really power metal.
I pointed that out because I was going to bring it up. What can you point at in this and say that's power metal?
Well, let's stick with the progressive thing a second. So what is progressive metal or progressive rock? And I would say it's demonstrating sort of a mastery of instrumentation, innovative composition, nominally, in the service of some sort of heightened narrative or dramatic feeling. And like that Dream Theater song, I always come back to this. Whatever the one from like 2011 is, where it's about a rock or something, and there's dollar signs but it's like every single musician gets a like a prelude solo, and then James LeBrie and the vocals kick in, and then we get all the regular solos too. And it's like, that's progressive music to me.
I think Pale Blue Dot does that. I don't know if that's the one you're talking about, but
No, I know which one you're talking. You're talking about Office Systematic Chaos somewhere in there.
Yeah,
I don't remember the song.
well, the fact that we can't narrow it down either, I think, kind of speaks to the progressiveness.
So I would actually okay. So take a band like Tear, and I think Tear. And I realize I'm not pronouncing that correctly.
Yes, write your angry letters
Toyota.
anyway. It's well, we don't need. I want to America-splain it to you.
But Tear is a progressive band, but they actually don't have a whole lot of like wanky guitar solos or wanky solos in general. The music is just complex. It's complexly arranged. But I think most people would probably describe it, at least some of their stuff, as progressive.
That band in particular, I think it's a spectrum. But like stuff like Ragnarok is very on the progressive side of things, and
Eric the Red too is extremely progressive.
but I think that's a good point, Mike. You can get to progressive via the songwriting and not just virtuosity.
Right.
And like I think the biggest misnomer about progressive music is that it can't be formulaic. Like Queensryche or Dream Theaters would be a case in point of it's progressive metal by numbers very often.
Well, so I'm convinced that we definitely need to drop the progressive label. I think it should be symphonic.
Yeah.
And I which is how I would describe Nightwish lately, and I feel like this lives in the Nightwish camp more than it lives in a Dream Theater type camp.
A lot of this sounds like Once era Nightwish, like Dark Chest of Wonders, things like that. But yeah, I mean, let's talk about Kamelot real quickly. They've been around since the mid 90s. Go ahead, Tim.
Hey, symphonic metal is what I've written.
Yeah, I see.
We dropped the progressive, we dropped the power.
I'm with you there.
I know you said,
but I think
you said gothic tinge.
Yeah, but I think that's actually key about the new stuff about 2007 forward.
All right. Well, instead of tinged, I would just go straight gothic.
Yeah.
Gothic symphonic metal? I'm okay with that label.
Can we call it Hot Topic Gothic? Because it's not really like gothy. It's like I wear black and I'm so...
How about faux goth?
Faux goth?
Faux gothic symphonic metal.
Yeah, I can live with that.
All right.
Well, here's my, I'll keep it to 2 minutes. My summary of Kamelot's career, and tear into me wherever you disagree. So they're from, I believe, Tampa or St. Pete. They're from Central Florida. Went totally against the grain. They released an album in 95, 96 that I hadn't heard before last night. And they're kind of, it sounds like Jag Panzer or Sanctuary.
Is that with Mark Vanderbilt?
It's a different vocalist, and it might be two different.
Black Shower.
Yeah.
Whoa. Black Shower.
So I can't pass judgment on that, but it sounds a lot different. Then they brought in Roy Khan, who, according to the story, is a classically trained Norwegian singer. The first album was Siege Perilous, which sounds like Baldur's Gate music.
I have no qualms with what you've been saying so far, so continue.
Yeah. Then we enter the run that to old people like us is probably considered their classic run, which is...
this is when I got into them, yes.
Yeah, same.
Karma, Fourth Legacy, and Epica. And then that that's power into power prog. And then you've got... what's that one? Black Halo. And that's sort of when they that's like them at their most progressive, and it's also when they switch to this more gothic tinge style, and when they de-emphasize the guitars a bit. Then we get,
and I think,
go ahead, Tim.
I think March of Mephisto, which was the the first single off the Black Halo, didn't that have Shagrat?
It does.
From
and it's got
from,
the very
Dimmu Borgir on it.
18th, 19th century Gothic conception. It's got the male female duet and all of Khan's ridiculous hand motions.
Yeah, and he started wearing that like Matrix trench coat.
Yeah, and I think like the eyeliner and the painted fingernails.
To be fair, on the Expedition, which is a live album of the Fourth Legacy,
Which I also have.
yeah, he mentions having to take off his coat, so it may predate. It may predate this.
They did appear to always dress the same based on the back of the art, the band art. So then we get into where maybe there's a fork in the road with Ghost Opera, which is a little more commercial. I don't mean it in a bad way, but the songwriting's simpler. It's again more kind of Hot Topic goth. And I think it's where they introduce, at least on the album, I'm not sure about live, but electric violins.
Oh, interesting.
And then we get kind of the odd album out, which is Poetry for the Poisoned, which is like full on gothic metal. Very dark, a little more dirgy. I like it. I can't tell you why. Then it's at this point, 2010 or so, that Roy Khan left the band, and to step in Tommy, I'm going to butcher his last name, but Karavik.
Yeah,
Yep, that is correct as far as I know.
They almost had Fabio Leone.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Did he
was
play
between
with them a couple times?
Yeah, like Fabio filled in a few times, and then
If they had moved to South America, it would have been.
well, yeah, Fabio filled in a few times, and then Tommy filled in a few times, and I was like, oh, it's like, please pick Tommy. Do not pick Fabio. Please pick Tommy.
Yeah, and he's no disrespecting Roy Khan, but he's kind of Roy Khan 2.0. He's like super dreamy and attractive looking, and he's got the hand gestures too, and a very similar range.
Yeah. When they switched, I couldn't tell them apart immediately.
Well, it is worth noting that like there are interviews with Karavik where he mentions singing in Roy's style, and I don't think he's from when he's entered the band, he's still definitely singing in the Roy Khan style. Because if you listen to Seventh Wonder, he is capable of way more than he does in Kamelot.
And
Seventh Wonder, a progressive power metal band.
Yes.
And back to the power metal angle. So if we look at Roy Khan and Tommy Karavik singing like Roy Khan, they're actually kind of a narrow range in what they attempt. Not super high, but total mastery within that more narrow range for power metal.
One thing I always loved about Roy Khan was particularly, and I think the song is called Rule the World, when he's hitting the high note there, he like turns his face to the side and kind of pulls the mic away like he's trying to pull the note out of his face.
I've had that stuck in my head all day thinking about this episode.
So 2012, we get Silverthorn, which is, I think, to Kamelot's current fan base would be considered a revitalized Kamelot. Very strong record. Probably again, a lot of the more gothic lyrical themes, the male-female duet, and this introduces their use of like deathcore vocals just a little bit.
This is weird. Maybe it's not weird. It feels like most bands pull in the female vocalist to get like the operatic, and they pull in the female vocalist to get the death vocals.
Yeah.
That started with Alyssa White Gluz. It was
she's an Arch Enemy now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, an Arch Enemy is terrible, and it's not her fault.
I've never really liked
like the Sacrimony video, a fantastic video, but it's got Roy and the singer from that
Delane,
that pop I don't mean that in a bad way. That pop metal, they did that cover of the Sabaton song.
I think are you talking about Delane, Charlotte Wessels?
Probably. Maybe I just don't know how to pronounce it.
I think Kamelot became like a vessel for these female vocalists to get I don't want to say popular, but like what it seemed like, so they had Simone Simon guest on something, and I guess like when they went to go tour, they're like, oh, she's probably like, I can't make the tour, guys. You know, I got my own band named after one of your albums. So they pulled in, I forget who was first, but they pulled in Charlotte Wessels, and she toured with them and sung all the female parts. And I think Delane opened for them. My timeline's fuzzy, but then they did the same thing with Alyssa White Gloves, and she also happened to scream, so she was doing the Chagrat parts, and I think they kind of went in on that. And then I can't tell you who the third one was, but you know, they did it again, but she had less of a career afterwards compared to Alyssa and Charlotte. So I think it's a completely premeditated thing by the record company, or at least managers or something.
Well, and they started,
and they're all very talented.
Yeah, and they really. I feel dirty doing this, Tim, but the one thing I keep thinking about is how ahead of the curve Burning Shadows was. You're not going to like my use of the term deathcore, but you were doing the death metal contrast stuff, in 2005, 2006, which wasn't like totally unknown, but all these power metal bands do it now. Anyway, plug done.
Thank you.
Lauren Hart might be who you're thinking of.
Yes, and she does screaming too.
And she just joined Divine Heresy, who's just straight up death metal. Oh, this is death. Okay, never mind. Technical death / groove metal, metalcore.
Ugh.
Okay, when did that happen? I did not realize that. Okay.
Yeah, so next time around they'll have someone else.
Yeah, so Silverthorn was a big hit. It kind of locked in this more commercial Kamelot sound, and then they've repeated it in 2014 with Haven, and then 2018 with The Shadow Theory, which I think has kind of been diminishing returns, but they're all very similar sounding records.
It wasn't super big on The Shadow Theory for reasons that I'll get into with The Awakening.
And just as a stylistic thing, they've always done like heavy orchestration, but they're now more driven by that and less by guitars. Is that reasonable?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. So I consider like 4 eras of the sound of Kamelot. There's the first few, but then there's the power metal. The second era was the straight power metal, Fourth Legacy, Karma, and that's blends into this progressiveness, which ended with Poetry for the Poison. But that was also all their ultra goth stuff. And I feel like after that, they said, okay, after these last 4 albums, we're now in the fourth era. They're like, we know how to make a generic poppy album.
Yeah, now it's time to make some money.
Yeah, turn that crank. And throughout all of this, they have always been able to write a damn good hook.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So like while you were listing the albums, I was just going through the track lists, and I'm like I can immediately remember choruses from a third of the album,
right, straight
away without trying.
Even like kind of bad songs like Falling with the Fahrenheit.
Yeah, I know that one.
And what I didn't notice until I was looking at this yesterday is like they hit that sweet spot. Like they're not afraid to even do like a 3.5 minute song and they rarely go over 5, which again, for a progressive band, not that progressive has to mean long, but like it's all 4 to 5 minute songs that rarely overstay their welcome.
Totally agree.
All right.
All right.
Yes.
So now that we're through that, is it time to start?
Yeah. So, looking at the album cover, this album, I believe, is about Maleficent from
that
Disney fame.
That DreamWorks?
Or
was it Pixar?
Maleficent from, what is she from? Is she from like Snow White?
Yeah, I think she was the evil witch in Snow White.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure that's what this album is about.
And I think it was Catherine Zeta-Jones, right? No, it was Angelina Jolie. And it was Disney, you're right.
Okay, that was my sad attempt at a joke. Okay, continue.
No, it was
So let's jump into
Spot on.
to Act 1.
Act 1. So I took a stab at where I think Act 1 ends.
One more flag in the ground.
Maybe.
I could see that.
Yeah, I have Opus of the Night starting the second third. So yeah.
There's a lot of agreement here.
Yeah, so we got Overture, The Great Divide, Eventide, and One More Flag in the Ground, which, I know Sonata Arctica had a later career song called Flag in the Ground. Like,
All right.
could they have tried a little harder?
And I feel like it's just got a statement that just robs me of any credibility as a music reviewer, but that is a Rammstein song. Like, the really simple guitar parts, the heavy sequencing, like the way in the chorus is like, yeah. And they use that voice effect instead of an act for the choral line. They just use a keyboard voice.
Yeah, so some meta stuff about this album. It actually, this is something that I wanted to bring up about the Shadow Theory and this. So when I was first listening to this, I've got my car audio tuned. However, I've slightly boosted the bass or something like that. But what I didn't realize is that you really need to listen to this album with like a flat fucking EQ.
Oh, you know what? I listened to it on my studio monitors. It's
Yeah.
probably a good thing I did that.
No, you're absolutely, because I felt this way about the Shadow Theory, and it makes me realize that maybe I need to go back and listen to this with some flat EQ. But if you don't, the guitar is eaten by the orchestration.
Yep.
Completely. So to the point where it's like, is Youngblood even in the band? And then once I listened to it, I was like, I gotta figure this out because nobody else is saying this. I listened to it flat, and it's like, okay, the guitar shines through pretty well. However, this album is loud as shit.
Yeah, I would definitely agree. I think it was I had noticed some of the orchestration. I think it was like a flute, right? I forgot what song it was, but I was like, this is that poor keyboardist did so much work orchestrating every little thing for this album just to have it like hard to pick out elements because it just become this wall of sound.
Yeah, and it's not necessarily a bad thing. The guitar
is like it's just all, it's Three Stooges trying to get through the door.
Right. Now, live, the loudest band I have ever seen is actually KAMELOT. So maybe this is on brand.
I have seen the loudest band on earth, Manowar.
And you've
but I'm
seen
pretty
the
sure
actual,
Ministry was louder.
I was about to say. But
sorry, yeah,
I was going to say it's kind of interesting to me. This isn't necessarily a criticism, but for a band as big as they are, to keep all the orchestration so synthetic, to do it all in synths. I think the violins are real, but
some of them are at least.
Yeah,
that you wouldn't. Really, you pay a bunch of classical musicians to do very simple music to tie into heavy metal. You get to the same place, but it's like they could afford to do what everyone has done, last decade, which is pay some orchestra or a bunch of session players a lot of money for it to sound about the same.
Right.
Yep.
I will say of the first, like especially The Great Divide, it actually evokes earlier Camelot for me. This album I think still definitely falls squarely into this like new era of Camelot, but The Great Divide actually has this feeling. At least, I haven't spent as much time with this album as I'd liked, because I think Tim was like, "Hey, did you hear about the album?" I was like, "Oh shit, I didn't realize it was out." That was like 2 or 3 days ago, but it almost, I feel like, especially like Haven and Silverthorn, it's got really this rhythmic pulse to a lot of the songs that The Great Divide doesn't have. It kind of feels a little bit more like kind of, I guess I'd say energetic and soaring maybe would be the right thing to say.
I feel like they've been using the guitars more for rhythm and driving the melody through the orchestration,
right,
with this being a good exception to that.
Yes. Yeah, actually, I think that's a very good way to put it. Yeah, it's definitely more of just kind of like a chug chug. Here's the edge. The orchestration holds everything else.
So we're part of the reason for this format is to make us go track by track. So I think not much to say about Overture. However you say that.
Yep.
It's the great.
It's there. It's kind of just in the way.
And it doesn't even. It doesn't tie into The Great Divide. I forget if there are other intro pieces do. But I think The Great Divide's like a perfect album opener. I think, to Mike's point, it's closer to their older sound. The lyrics are oh so gothic. Excellent right off the bat.
Yeah, I like this song.
Yeah. Well, yeah. So the first few songs on here, I'm like, it's the same album again.
Yeah, it's Camelot,
but not so much in a bad way. But it's just like, here's the catchy song, here's the other catchy song. Here you go. And yeah, so I think they were good. So Great Divide, Eventide, and One More Flag in the Ground. My note to myself was, is this album AI generated?
Yeah.
Because it's just kind of like, it's crank turning.
Well, One More Flag in the Ground it's almost like I said, you take out the guitar solo and the vocal style. It's so simple. It sounds like a Rammstein song.
This is an arena. This is like an arena banger, like if they were playing a stadium.
Yeah. So I'm sure it must be their single. But I feel like they've never done something that overtly commercial in that way.
I mean, I won't lie. This song is stuck in my head right now. It's not a bad song, and it is loud as shit, even in the context of this album. But that chorus is pretty solid, I think.
Yeah.
To your point, Tim, it's like, yeah, man, they could write a hook. So yeah, I like this song.
My only note on Eventide is "For You" sounds like "fuck you." That's what I kept hearing. Like he's saying it like, under his breath, very emotional. Fuck you.
Well, thanks for ruining that song, or improving it, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, and again, that
kind of changes the meaning.
They really they take the deathcore stuff to the next level, and it works in that song too. I have noted. All right,
yeah.
So that's Act 1.
So that first, yeah, I'm gonna give that whole. It starts off strong. I was gonna give it an 8, but I want to ding it for the for the useless overture that doesn't need to be there. So I'm going 7.5.
I go 8.
Yeah, I give it an 8.
All right. Act 2, starting with what did we decide already? Opus of the Night.
So this song, speaking
parentheses Ghost Requiem. like that's another just like we have a Camelot song title generator.
well, and I think talking, trolling us, like this song is literally just ghost opera again. And it's not rapey the way I don't know if you've seen the ghost opera video, but that always just using rape as a cheap dramatic device. It was sleazy. So it's the same song, this without that. So I like it, but it's got the good violin guitar duel.
Yeah, I think there was great. The symphonic stuff in this song in particular, I think was really well done, but the whole thing sounded Nightwishy to me.
Which I think we'll come back to a bit.
Yep.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, I cannot remember this song.
It's the one with the cello.
I remember a lot of other songs on this album. I can't think of it.
All right, what was next? Midsummer's Eve.
So
I always like their ballads. I think their ballads are always pretty solid.
I thought it was a good position for the ballad as well.
Yeah.
Like it's like four very poppy ones, or maybe poppy's the wrong word, but
Now I feel
big
like
songs, and then now it's time for the ballad, and this one had the same cellist and a violinist, and additional keys and arrangements by some guy.
As I was listening to the song, it just struck me. It's like, man, they do not use Tommy Karovic the way they should. He can. I know we said it earlier, but I think he shines in particular by making songs like this like effortlessly complex vocally, where he just does all sorts of vocal runs, but it's not like overdoing it. He can basically just kind of spice up a song by just doing what he does, and he's still pretty constrained pretty much all the way through. And it struck me on this song, I think, where it's like, man, I know what he's capable of. We really should, you just like let him go. But yeah, I still like this ballad. Solid ballad. I don't think there's a Camelot ballad I don't like, to be honest, though. So
Yet.
Yeah, yet.
yeah.
100% agree. With the cello solo is good. They drive it with the violin and the cello. More gothic lyrics. What's not to like? All right, then we get into Blood Moon, which is like one of the. It's like textbook late era Camelot, but this might be my favorite one of these on the record. It's got that the sitar notes, which I'm sure was faked at the beginning. Those are great, and it's just catchy as hell.
Yeah, and this one's a little bit, if I'm remembering the song, the correct song, this one's a little bit more guitar driven.
Yeah, the guitar is driving the chorus.
Yeah, which is, before I did my EQ correction, I was like, okay, here's the guitar. Like, there it goes.
I need to interject. In One More Flag in the Ground, Tommy's wife, Cobra Page, did the operatic vocals.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I wonder how they got her. Hey, are you busy? What do you want?
Yeah, what band she
Sing
in?
this shit. Cobra and the Lotus.
Okay.
I have not heard of that band.
Okay, so any more comments on Blood Moon? frankly, I don't remember it.
No.
So next would be Night Sky. I liked Night Sky a lot, and I didn't write down why.
And 3 minutes, 24 seconds.
Yeah. Maybe that's why.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember much about this song. Like, it's
Would
solid.
you end here for the second act, or would you include the Looking Glass?
I would end here personally.
Same. As tempting as it is to prop up the next act.
Well, you're reading ahead. All right. Another strong chunk of the album. Is it better than the opener? See, I dinged the opener and now I'm feeling guilty, so I'm going to unding this act and give it an 8.5. Dead air.
It's a 9.
Wow.
The hits keep coming.
For now.
Yeah, I guess I'll go 8. I wish I remembered more of this act.
Well, the fact that you don't
Yeah, they say something.
means it wasn't terrible.
I couldn't tell
True.
you a thing about the shadow theory, except that I've always enjoyed it in the 10 times I've listened to it.
All right. Next up, Act 3, beginning with The Looking Glass, another song I don't remember.
I actually do remember this song, and it's okay. I don't think this one is as much of a. It strikes me. I mean, I think partially due to the obvious reference to, Alice in Wonderland, but yeah, it's interesting, but I don't recall it being like super striking.
And this is definitely where you start to bury your weaker songs. And it's not bad, but it's not memorable. It's the same orchestral driven, pretty fast tempo, hyper melodic song we've heard 5 times already.
Right.
Yep. All right.
New Babylon.
Here it comes. New Babylon.
I'm not real fond of this one.
So
I wrote, New Babylon is weird.
this is Century Child Nightwish.
It's I don't hate this song, but it's like it. I think if I had to cut a song on the album, it would be this one.
There's more guest musicians. This has Simone Simons on it, and Melissa Bonney, who's listed as clean and dark vocals.
Dark
on
vocals.
New Babylon. There's also a New Babylon choir, Chris Fensky, Svenja Kader, and Oliver Pelotai.
Pelotai is the keyboardist.
So it is. How about that? So
I actually like this song.
So
going into the full Nightwish mode, if we accept that for what it is, I think this is a pretty solid song.
I don't really like Nightwish, so that probably explains.
Yeah, I would do it.
Yeah,
I just thought it sounded. It didn't sound Camelot-y to me.
Yeah, I think that's probably. It definitely stands out. On this
it might
album.
be one of those ones that grows on you, though.
To me, it feels a little repetitive. Like I don't find the chorus to be strong enough to justify how often we return to it. That New Babylon. It's like, all right, I got it. I got it.
It's about social inequality.
You can sing about that as long as the song's good.
All right. Now, Mike,
Next.
defend Willow.
Let's see. This is ballady. as I recall.
Yes.
It's,
I can defend Willow.
yeah, I like this song.
It's very sparse.
Yeah.
So you've had the wall of sound for most of the album now, and they bring it down to, I don't know, it's kind of meandering. It's a decent song. It's not terrible, but when it hits My Pantheon, the next track, the last proper song, it sounds huge because it's right after Willow.
I respect the utilitarian purpose of the song in the track order, but I don't think anyone's going to be like, "Oh fuck yeah, Willow!" Live. I love this one.
You're probably right about that.
We'll find out. We'll need to see the tour.
It's just Willow 28 times.
They open with it.
They open with Willow, close with Karma, and then have an encore of Willow.
All right. Well, you're right about My Pantheon. It starts out slow, then it just stampedes you with dynamism.
Yeah, I mean, this is one of the stronger songs on this latter third for sure.
Yeah. However, I kept hearing a weird yeah in there. Did you hear that?
No, but now I will.
Yeah, go listen to it again because there's like it's like a background vocal. It's a little bit buried, and he's going yeah, and it reminds me of, I believe it was a Kids in the Hall sketch, or it might have been The State. I don't know, one of those '90s sketch shows where the bit was the guy keeps going yeah. So.
Yeah, I think this is just New Babylon Part 2, and I personally like New Babylon better, but they're very similar in approach. I do like how you get the minute of the orchestration just barrels in, and you're like, shit. Like, that part's cool.
And now I'm wondering, since My Pantheon and New Babylon have the same number of syllables, I'm trying to figure out which chorus I'm remembering.
Yeah. Because I thought it was My Babylon and My Pantheon when I was writing this. It's like... It's like, no wonder they just added forevermore there for no reason.
Yeah.
I mean...
It's from the Camelot word bank.
Yeah, you know... But my opinion, going back to kind of Tim, your initial thoughts is like, yep, it's a new Camelot album. Like, there it is again. They did it again.
Yep. And then there's a useless outro, which I believe had a major key in it.
I don't even remember what that sounds like.
It sounds like Final Fantasy music. It's one of their better video game music pieces.
Yeah, but it's just like it doesn't matter at the end of the episode. It's like, episode? Album.
Right, I feel like you should like string motifs, like you should be pulling something from what you've done, but they don't.
Or, I mean, there's an Opeth album that ends with epilogue that sounds nothing like the rest of it, but it's still interesting. This wasn't interesting. At least not in the context of the album.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, is this a concept? It doesn't seem like there's a common thread. But
I have not seen it positioned as such.
Right.
But I feel like all their albums sort of feel, at least their more recent albums feel.
Well, Haven and the Shadow Theory do tell there is a concept.
Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I believe they're parts 1 and 2 of a story. The concept seems really stupid, but it's there.
Is it that science fiction thing in that video?
I want to. It's so if you listen to Haven, it's all about like some government and overthrowing, and because at the end song is Revolution, and then listening to End of Innocence. Let's see. I poured myself onto this page. I'm writing a swan song for ages. So my understanding of this whole thing is like of Haven is like, it's like the toppling of a government, but I never really bothered to look into it more than that.
So it's that 9 Inch Nails album just done goth metal.
I guess so. I could be wrong. Maybe I'm totally wrong.
No, I bet you're right, because the videos all seemed interlinked.
Yeah.
It's funny, End of Innocence, Camelot, Iced Earth, and Symphony X released songs called End of Innocence, like within years of each other.
Huh.
It's funny to me. Yeah, so I think this was the weakest act.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's where you bury all the songs you're less confident in. They experimented a little bit, for better or worse. But I don't want to ding it too hard. So, because, it wasn't bad. It was just weird and different. So I'm going with 7.
Same. 7.
7.
Wow, straight 7s.
Lucky.
Okay. Presentation. So I got the CD version.
Yeah, that thing is awesome.
It's a digipack,
Yeah.
which I hate. I hate digipacks, but I do like the K cutout on the slipcase of the digipack.
That's cool.
Cover is some lady in a gothic setting. That's very Camelot of them.
Yeah. She's wearing a moon on her head.
Yep.
A techno moon.
Yeah, techno moon that's plugged into the Matrix, and she's wearing a long flowing dress that is just impractical. You can't walk anywhere in this dress.
Yeah, how did she get here?
I would assume she came up from underneath.
Or are those meant to be like
wouldn't her
people
moon thing
under
get
the
caught on
dress
things?
that are like holding it up?
I see a bird. There's like an owl in there.
This is why I need to get vinyl so I can see what's on the cover.
You know what? The only thing I can make out of there is a bird. Everything else is just like a mishmash of shit.
Well, I'm looking at the insert, and it's again like a lot of gothic imagery, blood on bodies. But there is this one. This is like an owl with something sharp right in front of its eye.
Oh,
Guess is pretty goth.
yeah.
Well, it's hard to be more goth than, the lady bleeding down her back, and she forgot to wear clothes.
So frankly, I would describe maybe Camelot's new aesthetic as try-hard. If I'm being totally honest, like I feel like Silverthorn wasn't really that way, but Haven and Onward, maybe Silverthorn is still pretty try-hard. But.
Now, I want to talk about the back of the album, the band photo.
Oh yeah, show me.
All right, here it is. Tommy Karavik and some guys. He's very prominent. It's not as bad as the early Arch Enemy days when Angelo Gossow was like, 100 meters in front of the band, and the band could be mistaken for passersby. But Tommy Karavik is far more prominent on the back of this album than anyone else.
I love the new metal bassist. He's my favorite part of the band, representing Central Florida.
Dude, Tim and I have talked about him before. It feels like if you cut off his dreads, he'd be a car mechanic.
Yeah.
That's what he looks like. Like
I'll have it done by Thursday.
he does a great job.
Yeah,
it's just
he does.
He's good at what he's doing, but
I love how he has all the like unrepentantly 90s like Korn-esque stage moves.
Yeah.
he does.
God damn.
Yeah. So for presentation, it's very on brand. Try hard is a good term for it. I appreciate the thought. like
It looks good.
all the booklet has every page has artwork or a photo in it, which used to be the norm and expected.
Yeah.
But since CD sales are declining, fewer bands are going all out the way they should be with the CD package design, and I appreciate that they kept it up.
And it looked like there were like 4 or 5 options, like a nice vinyl.
Yeah.
I mean, again, not like unexpected, but they spent a lot of money and it shows. They give the people what they expect.
I mean, so Haven, Shadow Theory, and The Awakening, like presentation wise,
like identical.
They're great.
And
they're identical, yes, but they look good, right? Like they're cool albums.
Maybe it's because Thomas Youngblood is like 60, even though he's pretending he's not. He's like, we need the physical media. Yeah. It's in my contract.
Yeah, man, okay, I got to go back to this cover again for The Awakening. So, all right, she's wearing a moon. It's connecting some wires. And what is that like a light switch that she's holding? What is that?
Okay, Thomas Youngblood, by the way, is 48, and he's from Richmond.
He's 48?
Virginia.
Oh, that's why BC spoke very locally when he did say Silver Springs, but he knew the difference between that and Baltimore quite well.
Right.
Yeah, well, he can be forgiven since he's from Central Virginia. There's too much traffic to come up to Silver Spring.
Springs.
Spring is one spring, and they probably paved it over.
Stainless steel now. They had to.
It looks like she's holding a dagger, but
is that what
a very weird way of holding one?
Do you see it? Oh, is it like it's cut into her hand?
Oh, I see.
Man, what the fuck is going on with this lady? What is she doing? Is
We'll
that
never know.
her dress behind her too? Like, is it over top of some shit?
It's like there's people underneath holding it up, or some kind of supernatural force, and it's like rippling.
So this is like some Lady Gaga shit. Like where you need like an entire team to get her.
Yeah, if they do this live, it's a great cover. They pull this image off, I'm 100% sold.
I'm thinking this looks pretty good behind me, actually. I might temporarily replace the jugulator with this.
I mean, it is a cool image. I just really enjoy overanalyzing this shit.
I bet they have a forum, and it could be like you and some 15-year-olds.
Dude, she's so hot. I like the moon she's wearing covers her eyes.
Okay. When I saw Jag Panzer a long time ago, there was a guy in Springfield, Virginia, who was holding up a sign that said, like, Jag Panzer taught me my English homework or something like that.
Yeah.
So he goes up to them before the show and he's talking to them, and they say, "You're the guy from the forums, aren't you?"
Oh, no.
He was like, "Yeah, it's me."
Ah, that's great. All right, we have a couple more categories. We were talking about presentation. Let's finish on that. So, I think it comes off. I think the positives balance the negatives, and it falls more towards the positive side. So I'm going to give the presentation. I was going to say 8, but what could improve it? Not too much. So I'll go 8.5.
I'm going to give it a 7. Try hard stuff. Like,
good point on the try hard stuff.
Yeah. I feel like you have to, if you're doing something that's stupid, which this is, and I'm okay with that.
Till proven otherwise, yeah.
Yeah, you have to either like totally lean into it or like don't do it. And this seems a bit more like on the oblivious angle. Like,
and
it's like
they've done the same thing since Poetry for the Poisoned, essentially.
They have,
and even
yeah.
the backdrop. This looks like the Great Pandemonium video. If you swap out the soul machine with this moon woman.
Yeah.
What they are you? Do you want them to like all wear Jinkos or something? Like,
well, I think it's
like, how do you go all in on it? That's my question.
I mean, like, all right, if you're gonna do the gothic shit, I feel like you got to come out and you're like if you're on stage with this, you're draped in cloaks.
Oh, so kind of like what Roy Khan was doing with his trench coat thing.
Or you look like Behemoth, or Behemoth live. You know, where they come
I always
out,
say Behemoth.
Behemoth,
but,
yes.
Type how that is pronounced in the comments below, please.
But yeah, you know, they come out and they look like they all spec Thief in Baldur's Gate.
Yeah.
It's like that's what you want to do. I feel like if you.
It's like Thief by way of Hot Topic.
Right.
Yeah, but with Camelot, they look far too normal. Otherwise, I feel like to justify this imagery, you know, because they look like they're dressing up in black to dress up in black, and then they go home and they put on, like, I don't know, a tie-dye shirt, and they're like, yeah.
Well,
I feel normal.
And this isn't a criticism if true, but I wonder, because they really do lean into the goth thing the last 15 years, and they were always darker, and they always dressed kind of in costumes before, it seems. But like the old goth industrial thing and like the Kruk Shadows and whatever bands you would have once seen are all gone now. So there is a market space for the kids. You know, they got screamo and emo, but some people want the more, they got to go from the Nightmare Before Christmas to something. And now it's Camelot. And how much of that was like a vacuum that they stepped into, and how much of it is just what they always wanted to do?
I will also say, like, I do feel like the presentation doesn't quite match the music. You know, especially a song like The Great Divide. It's not consistently in line with the presentation, let's put it that way. You know, it sometimes is, especially with Haven and the Shadow Theory. This album, not as much.
Yeah, this is a little, I don't know if brighter is the right word, but it's a little more upbeat.
When you think of Karma, the word epic comes to mind. Like, everything was about it being like soaring melodies, and everything's about, like, I don't know, death and futility and
not crying.
Don't you cry. God forbid it. But, you know, it's the spell, Wings of Despair. Everything is about it just being, like, kind of big and epic. And then the new aesthetic is definitely supposed to be more close to just pure despair. But the lyrics, I don't think often or frequently don't match that. For better or for worse. I mean, it doesn't bother me. I still really like Camelot. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like you really gotta take your aesthetic and go all the way, or ease back and try to make it fit what you're doing.
Doug, what's your score on the presentation?
8.
All right. Now the last category, I guess. I have it written here as trueness or metalness. So,
well, trueness is very low on this.
Well, so what I'm struggling with here for this category is it's very on brand for Camelot. So it's very truly Camelot. you know what I mean? Like, but at the same time, that also means it's by the numbers more or less. it's commercial. It's mastered too hot.
Yeah.
You know, and does that mean they're being posers, or is that like a real metal thing to do? It's like, we found the formula, let's stick to it.
So I have written, they do exactly what they want to do and aren't afraid to make money while doing it. There's something about their history, sound, or image to annoy everyone, which is metal.
Wow. Yeah, you have convinced me.
So there's, I feel like judging them in terms of metalness is difficult. Like, especially, I would say the classic era of Camelot, you know, it being the Fourth Legacy, Karma, and Epica. It's very flowery and ornate music, right? So it's not real, like, you know, crushing or imposing, or which is kind of like the typical things that we talk about when we talk about everything being like, oh, it's metal. And then I feel like with this try-hard shit, it's less so, because I feel like it's trying to convince me that it's crushing or imposing, but it's still Camelot. So, I mean, I would rate this pretty low on the metal. Just if it weren't try-hard, if I were convinced that they believed it, I
was never convinced they believed it.
Yeah, but I could see them being like, writing Karma and be like, man, spells are so cool.
Yeah, that's true.
Man, Elizabeth
and the
Bathory,
demons are casting those spells.
You know, center of the universe.
My demons.
Yeah. But with the Awakening, I feel it's like, yeah, I bet some kids will think this is pretty slick.
Now, like Siege Perilous, they believed in that. I think you're right. Now it's yeah.
That's a good point. Well, so also to counter the metal argument, I'm looking at our scores for Ripper, and how I was about to drop a score that is comparable to Ripper's score, and no, if Ripper and Camelot were in a room, like, all the metalness belongs to Ripper.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I'm gonna subtract from the metal score. It is metal what they're doing, but it's also not metal what they're doing. So I'm gonna have to go with a 6 for the trueness / metal score.
Yeah, I'll go 6 as well.
Camelot: The Awakening. All right, and Mike.
5 and 5. I'll go 5.
5.
And
wow, so it's really nowhere near as metal as the Ripper album. I can live with that.
It could be.
It's well, I mean, we knew that coming in.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it to be as metal as Ripper.
You know, one thing I kept thinking, especially with what's the Opus of the Night, the Ghost Opera Redux? Are they writing all this stuff to cut Roy Khan out of the royalties? Like, they're not
like
going to need to play too much
songs.
of, except for the Camelot, the Fourth Legacy stuff.
No, they don't even play the Fourth Legacy live. I haven't seen them play the Fourth Legacy live since I saw them tour the Black Halo.
That's a shame.
Yeah, the closest they came was Palatai doing like diddle 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 diddle, you know, on the keyboard. Yeah,
before we go, I do want to respond to this review on Metal Archives. This was written on March 20th, 2023, by Kluseba, and he gave it a 55%.
I think that's low.
And what he says is, Camelot is a band that should certainly please me on paper. The international group plays power... International. They got a guy from Canada. Tommy Karavik moved from Sweden to Canada.
Oh, I didn't know that. I think
now everyone's in Florida except for Tommy.
Palatai's Italian.
He's not even in like a part of Canada people live in. I apologize for all of our Flames fans, listeners. Anyway, the international group plays power metal with at times progressive songwriting and symphonic arrangements that often flirt with gothic stylistics. As we addressed, it's not power metal, it's not progressive, and the whole thing is symphonic. It's not at times symphonic. Anyway, however, the band's discography had numerous significant ups and downs, in my opinion. Even the group's performances and concerts have been underwhelming, as the group has been outclassed by opening act Sonata Arctica.
Yeah, that's some hot fucking garbage right there.
And even matched in their infamous pop rock band Battle Beast regarding crowd participation.
If you're going
I
to tell
regret
me,
to inform you that Here We Go Again, since The Awakening is a significant regression in comparison to versatile predecessor, The Shadow Theory, that managed to grow with every spin. This fucking guy thinks new Sonata Arctica is outclassed formulaic Camelot. And
you're gonna tell me
way the fuck off base, and Battle Beast sucks.
If you're going to tell me that watching Tony Kakko have a midlife crisis on stage for the last 15 years is better than Camelot, no.
Yeah, but he does wear the Jinkos.
Yeah,
And he wears
there's a lot of people on the Camelot stage to distract you from Thomas Youngblood's midlife crisis.
Yeah, he goes on, but I mean, this opening paragraph just shows you how unreliable this guy's opinion is. Like, he clearly doesn't know what he likes. So.
The one thing we didn't touch on is comparative, at least to the Tommy Karavik era. Do we agree this is at least their best album since Silverthorn?
I liked Haven a lot.
I also liked Haven a lot.
So I'm not sure yet how I would position this. I need to give it a few more spins, but like Haven, I know extremely well. I don't know why that album resonated with me.
Group all of these pretty close together, though.
Yeah,
I think that's fair.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, so to me, it's kind of meaningless unless we had to like really analyze it and like compare how bad the bad tracks are and how great the great tracks are, you know?
Yeah. I mean, so far, this seems like a real solid album with maybe kind of a not as great back half or back third. Haven is pretty strong all the way through, I think.
And it's one of those, like, I really like that album, but I don't remember anything about it. So, yeah, I guess I can't take an informed position. So I'm going to be prog and not take a position.
I was looking up this guy's other reviews. He doesn't like The Lord of Steel. Oddly, he doesn't like Battle Beast. I mean, he gave them 0%. Doesn't like Taria, Moonspell,
And
Motorhead.
Reviews.
He gave, yeah, this guy.
I love the.
Apparently, never mind. He doesn't like Destruction, Exodus, Hammerfall Infected he doesn't like. Maybe that's okay. Anyway.
I just love the overwrought sort of house style to heavy metal reviews.
See, I used to frequent a metal message board on the site called Tuffel's Tomb. And Tuffel, I became like I would say acquaintances with Tuffel, but his whole thing was just writing extremely caustic reviews, no matter what. So even if you liked the band, it's just, you know, he had this section devoted to hate mail where he would just like post. Oh, it was fantastic because he just slammed everything, and I loved it. Oh no, I'm going to say something very controversial.
Am I going to have to edit this out?
No. This guy, you know, his opinion should be disregarded because he likes By the Light of the Northern Star by Tyr.
That is controversial. We'll argue about that on a future episode.
I fucking hate that album.
That'll be a good review battle.
Yeah.
I think. All right. Any closing remarks?
Nope. Solid album. Like it. Doesn't do anything spectacular, but it's fun to listen to.
Thanks, Metal Nation. We'll see you on the other side of the blood moon.
And don't get your moon hat caught in your giant dress. Until next time, keep it metal.
Cast them down.
Eventide. Is that even a word?
It's a guitar brand. It's a guitar gear brand.